Today in St. Andrews, we all stood together in the market square and chanted, "What do we want?" And the answer was climate action. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Climate action. When do we want it? Now. And it was wonderful. About 60, 70 seniors there, and I was an honorary member as the Green Party candidate who showed up to support. But I was given a sign. I'm a few years outside the seniors bracket yet, but I was so glad to join. And of course, I've got to say, and you likely already know, I am the only candidate representing the only party who is taking seriously climate action. When do we want it? Now. And so today, the Seniors for Climate Action, today is typically Seniors Day, October 1st, but the wonderful organizer, Muriel Jarvis, she stood up there and gave us the background of how 6 environmental agencies contacted seniors coalitions. And next thing you know, and I'm sure there's a lot of story there about how it came together, we had a national movement today, Seniors for Climate, and she organized a wonderful event in St. Andrews where we have people taking seriously climate change. Now, you already know that as a Green candidate, I've talked about how the Green Party will make your access to a healthy environment, your right to a healthy environment, a piece of legislation. You should not have to breathe in dirty air or worry about any number of pollutants happening in your environment. You were born in this land. And even just respecting Indigenous rights, we are not going to poison the land, spray glyphosate, belch carbon into the atmosphere, pollutants, things like that. And so we want to protect your right to a healthy environment. But climate is changing. Hurricane Fiona in 2022 was the most cataclysmic, most expensive weather event in Atlantic Canada. And we need to prepare. These are our wake-up calls. People are having trouble getting insurance. People are seeing their properties destroyed. And we need to start taking action to mitigate climate change as best we can. You can read all the science on that. We are trying to get as a global community to zero emissions by the year 2050. But of course, these governments would like to New Brunswick governments would like to continue fracking, releasing gases into the atmosphere. We have the International Energy Agency saying all that needs to stay in the ground if we are to reach our zero emissions targets and keep global warming temperatures down. The oceans are warming. This is affecting fishers in our jurisdiction, in the riding of Saint Croix, who need the oceans to not warm up, et cetera, et cetera. And so I want to just quickly talk to you today about I just looked at the clock there, 4 things that the Green Party released today in order to address climate change as a province. And of course, as your MLA in St. Croix, I'm very interested in implementing these things right in our riding. The first thing would be to essentially beef up the cell phone towers so that there is reception, guaranteed reception, anywhere that you are in the province. So that is a matter of erecting cell phone towers. Those of you who know, I've been canvassing out in the ridges, and of course, cell phone, your reception completely dies on the way to Fredericton, of course, as you're getting close to Rolling Dam and beyond that. This is extremely hazardous. It's dangerous just in general. My wife got a flat tire outside of Miramichi. She was there doing work, and she was driving back, and she got a flat tire. And of course, I was so thankful she happened to be in a reception area. So it's just dangerous if you're out in the middle of the woods, these more remote areas in New Brunswick without cell reception. But when we are talking about climate events like floods and like fires and like extreme weather, whether it's rain or snow, we need people to feel safe, to get alerts through their phone. And so it's unacceptable and it's unsafe when you don't have cell reception in these areas. So a green government is all about, we talk about this all the time, preventative measures. We want to prevent bad things from happening because then it costs 10 times more to clean something up or to fix something after the fact. And so we have seen too many governments kicking things down the road. This is one of those things where we're not talking about just, great cell reception so that you can listen to Spotify on a long drive. That would be a side benefit, but it's for public safety as well. The second thing we want to be establishing is a climate change risk reduction fund. And that is money that will be set aside to be drawn upon by municipalities as they need to update their infrastructure to mitigate or fight forest fires or maintain the forests or build up seawalls and things like that. And of course, living here in St. Stephen, we are all keenly watching the rising and lowering tides. As you know, every single day, largest tide in the world, but we have had flooding events where the water comes all the way to the civic center, etc. And this is going to have to be continually addressed by municipalities. Municipalities are already suffering a $200 million infrastructure funding deficit. The Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick just came out with a report that said that across the province. And all of our municipalities are going to be on the hook. Every single taxpayer in the municipality will see their taxes rise exponentially unless we see commitments from the province to mitigate and protect against this kind of thing. And that is what we are committing to you. So there will be a fund set up to mitigate against climate change expenses. As we said, things like Fiona, where the cost is extremely high. Yes, looking at the clock again. The third thing we want to do is set up a coastal protection agency for things like erosion and for specifically things like flooding. New Brunswick is a coastal province for the most part. And as I said, not only do we have municipalities living on coastal areas that are flooding, but just today, I was invited to somebody's house to put up a sign. They showed me how close they are to the water. They had a 6-foot seawall. They themselves had to build it 2 more feet because they are seeing flooding like they have never seen in all their 40 years living on that property. That is the kind of fund that, as your local MLA, I will work to make sure that you can draw on. We need people to have relief when they are fighting against flooding as a result of climate change and rising seawater, rising sea levels, and things like that. And the fourth thing, we would like to establish a youth climate corps. If you're wondering what that is, check out what BC is doing. Basically, it is training and employment for youth, people 18 to 30. That's what they do in in BC. I'm already being optimistic that we're doing this in New Brunswick, but training and employment for things like climate change mitigation measures. So everything I just described, you can have the fund and you can have the agency, but what about workers? Well, this puts people to work. This is what they're doing in BC, where young people are getting jobs, they're getting training, they're getting degrees and diplomas around the science of climate change, the engineering required to change our infrastructure. And so it's a wonderful program, and that is something Greens will establish here in New Brunswick as well. Hopefully that was enough great news for you. That all got released today by the Green Party. And it is no coincidence that it happened today, of course, on the Seniors for Climate Day for Action. I'm so grateful to Muriel and Jarvis and folks like her who are organizing this across the country, and to all the seniors who showed up today and said, this is important enough to take my time, to take my afternoon, and to not just chant, but we want to see real teeth. And again, I remind you, it is the Green Party and only the Green Party that is taking this urgently and has for years. The other parties just continue to push this down the road. So if you're feeling serious and urgent about this, and you know that you'll have an MLA working in your riding, Saint Croix, against climate change mitigation, then you need to vote for me. You need to vote Green. And I'm just going to say that very frankly because I'm concerned about climate change in my lifetime and that of my children. It is very urgent and serious and important. And thank you, seniors, for leading the way on that today. This was long. Thank you so much for joining me today. See you tomorrow for, what's it going to be, episode 113.